Calls the South Dakota
Oh, that wasn't mine.
Association Senate to order. Roll call and approval of proxies.
Allerape.
Here.
Archer.
Here.
Cantz.
Here.
Dominguez.
Here.
Dumont.
Here.
Else.
Here.
Espinette.
Here.
Fernandez.
Here.
Hewitt.
Here.
Jurens.
Here.
Call.
Here.
Kessinger.
Here.
Leonard.
Here.
Lewis.
Here.
Lockwood.
Here.
McCallum.
Here.
Paulson. Here. Quigley. Russ.
Here.
Seekman.
Here.
Wing. Wheat. Here. Van Ruler.
Here.
Witt.
Here.
Okay. I'm going to get a chance to look at the updated agenda on the board. The one I sent out was pretty terrible. Everyone in favor of the agenda? Any issues with it? See none. Approved with unanimous consent. Everyone get a chance to look at the minutes sent out this week? Any issues? See none. Minutes are approved with unanimous consent. We're going to move on to our guests, the National Society of Leadership and Success, Sam Hartway, and
Wi-Fi finally got back on.
Gotcha. We're just going to let them get their presentation figured out real quick. So just hang tight.
C-O-P-E-R, B-E-R-M-E-D-L-E-N.
Thank you. Close, good now.
I'm 100% intended to walk in this last meeting.
So how's everyone's week? It's all right. It should be set. Okay. You guys are gonna go up to the podium.
You got this. Yeah.
Sorry guys, 1 second.
Okay.
And then just let me know when you need to change this page or slides.
Gotcha.
Have at it.
All right, so we're the National Society of Leadership and Success. My name is Sam Hartway, and this is Cooper Vermillion. We're the Vice President and Secretary of the club. And then, very good. All right, so the purpose.
Not sure. So the NSLS, we're pretty much, we want to recognize, cultivate, and honor leaders, and we want to make a positive change in the world as well. We want to help members discover and achieve their goals, and we also give them some real world experience to do that. So. I'm muted.
All right, so our events, the first one is, these are held every semester. So the first one is orientation. That's just to get the members who signed up started with the process of, or towards induction. So letting them know what is everything they need to do, what are the requirements, and then as we move along, the leadership training day. The most important part about that is where they form the S&T groups. And this is probably one of our more distinctive features because while everyone in the club is working towards induction, they work towards that in these groups called S&Ts, which meet not only during actual meetings, but also in their own time as well. We've had people meet at Starbucks or just at Surbeck or whatever. And then we have the speaker broadcast. So these are open to all students, not just NSLS members. And some recent ones we've had Andrew Yang, Kelly Ripa, Terry Cruz, Kevin Hart was another recent one. And then again, there's the S&T meeting. So they have 3 meetings outside of our the meetings we hold for everyone to help complete goals towards induction. And lastly, at the end of the semester, induction is where they officially become members.
And this is just a timeline of kind of how it goes. So, I'll see on that one, I suppose. Yeah, okay. We do have some campus-wide events too, like Sam said. We have three speaker broadcasts per semester that people have to go to, but it's open to all students. So we invite people that aren't necessarily in the NSLS to come to these as well. Next slide.
All right, so our member base, we're primarily focusing on sophomores and juniors, just because for freshmen, we want to give them some more time to figure things out and get their priorities with what they want to specialize in and extracurriculars and all that a little bit ironed out. And then we also have the GPA requirement for 2.75, and we have a wide mix of majors, but we're really looking for anyone who would be willing to advance those soft skills and leadership. For our numbers, we've had 149 total people go through that induction process. Right now we have 70 with 4 current officers. We break meetings up into multiple, usually 2 days out of the week to give, to kind of break that large number up to give us a little bit more control over them. And then, let's see, meetings that is. All right, ready? Next one.
Oh yeah. So organization leaders.
That's not quite.
That's not.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it got. Maybe that's not the most recent copy. Okay, just ignore that. That's Corey. And then Sarah Perkin. Our president is Sarah Miller. Like I said, I'm the vice president. Cooper's the secretary, and Hunter Olson is our treasurer. And we work closely with Sam and Corey to kind of outline the goals of the club and which directions we want to move to. We're ready for the next one. All right, you got this one?
Yeah. So what makes us unique? We give out scholarships to our members. You can apply for a national level. There's a lot of member perks from the national level as well. You can get like coupons, deals for stores and online shopping. There's also like national events such as like leadership summits and stuff like that. Also get to learn some of those leadership soft skills that Sam was talking about, and then the S&T groups also kind of work towards a goal throughout the entire semester leading up to induction. So, next slide.
All right, so with financials, a lot of it's internal. Like we have these goals or benchmarks called pillars, which are based off of requirements, about the number of members, number of new members, and also how many of those members have completed the steps towards induction. So if we hit those pillars or benchmarks, then we do get funding from the national organization. And we also carry our events through Sodexo.
Money from that comes from the pillars.
Yep.
He's talking about.
And then if we were to be an approved student org, we'd love to use some funding to hold more campus-wide events and stuff open to more than just our members, but it'd be a great way to engage with the overall campus body. And let's see, future goals. Like I said, the campus-wide engagement is something we're really strongly focusing on. We want to be able to get to know or have our presence a little bit stronger on campus and with the students. So that could include more broadcasts as well as like activities or like breakout room sessions. I guess I can get that a little later too. And then also being an approved student org, if that were to happen, we'd be able to advertise on campus a little easier for our regular events and for our open to everyone events. And then we additionally like to expand on our post-induction opportunities. Right now there are some online courses that members who've completed induction can go through, but we'd love either to make those a little more accessible or make a little bit more of those, or another thing we were talking about was having these optional leadership events where we could have some type of activity, maybe some guest speakers or something like that, where we could split our member base into the smaller breakout rooms so everyone can kind of rotate and learn a little bit of each skill that we focus on. So that would be next slide. And that's everything. Oh, there it is again. Okay. Well, that's all we have. So, any questions?
You guys are in the understanding that since you have GPA requirements in your documentary, you're not able to get SOAP. We need like in the tradition sense, correct? Because that's like fraternities or sororities coming.
Okay. Yeah.
I think Corey had an explanation for.
Yeah, and so I think what we were talking about is anything that's not, because you're correct. So the dues that are coming in, that's helping support them, and then our office is offsetting. So it is still kind of housed under us, but we want to make sure they got recognized similar to the chapter at BH, SDSU, and I think that there's one at USD as well. So that helps support a lot of their programming. So that should cover them at this point. And as I said, yes, the focus when we started this a year ago really was sophomore, juniors, with the idea that PDI, for example, with their fall leadership retreat, there was a lot that focused first year students, and so this kind of gets those, keeps that leadership going. And then the speakers, as they said, that is open to all of campus. And hopefully now that we're getting past COVID, or post-COVID, they used to host those speakers physically on campuses across at membership schools. And so we've already put in that once that opens again, our institution would be interested in hosting those speakers in the future.
So, and on that note with SOAP, so you wouldn't be able to go through the normal SOAP process. We have partnered in the past with Tau Beta Pi Honor Society as far as certain events, but you have to be coming through for every event with a specific purpose, with a resolution, working with a senator to bring forward a resolution. So just so you know that it's not going to, if you guys are in any way desiring money to hold events on campus that benefit the students of Lions, it's not the normal process.
Sounds good.
Any questions for NSLs? Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. All right, moving on to new business, resolution 22F-013, student organization deactivations.
Marshall Schleich, resolution number 22F-013, 2nd November 2022, originated by the Constitution Committee, presented by Senator Kessinger. Whereas October 1st was the deadline for the registration of student organizations, and whereas the following organizations failed to complete the registration process through Rocker Central, and whereas several attempts have been made to contact these organizations, and therefore be it resolved by a majority vote of the Student Senate and the signature of the Student Association President that these organizations be deactivated. Amateur Radio, Association of Environmental and Engineering Geologists, College Republicans, Environmental and Water Resources Institute, Graduate Student Chapter, Hard Rocker Chess Club, Hard Rocker MPG, IEEE Eta Kappa Nu, Math Club, Sigma Gamma Epsilon Theta Nu, Society of Outdoor Students, Society of Petroleum Engineers, Study Dakota Tech Soccer Club, the Aurum Newspaper, and Fermentation Club.
So what I would briefly say is I've done everything in my power to find contacts for these organizations. So we have a week before you approve this, but if you know, like, tech soccer club, like they were at the workshop at the beginning of the year, but I could not read their contact persons, I have no way of getting a hold of them. So if you know any of these that are active, they're meeting, they need to get those pages created and they can stay active. But at this point, we have no way of getting a hold of any of these organizations. There were a couple, College Republicans I've heard are not coming back, and then the water resources, I did confirm with that organization and they are not coming back.
Also, we'll clarify, just as I was confused on it as well. IEEE itself isn't being dissolved, it's IEEE Eta Kappa Nu, which is an internal, it's like an honor society within IEEE. So I was like kind of shocked by that as well. Any other comments on this? Anyone know anyone on these clubs? Senator Leonard.
Amateur radio and soccer club. I will talk to people who I know were involved with them in the past.
I'm especially,
Magic the Gathering Club. I know.
are they still meeting?
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
So I'm gonna. Yeah.
Yeah, they have till before next Wednesday.
Yeah.
Before the meeting next Wednesday to get it in. Does anyone know anyone from fermentation clubs? We just proved them like last spring. How's your take?
Yeah, they're gonna call on. Well, I will give a brief update on South Dakota.
Oh,
So they're regrouping. So I do think we will see them come back, but rather than just redo that and not being a good, they're trying to get everything squared away. I said, please come back to Senate when you've got everything ready to go and then they can reactivate you. So there is a group of students still working on that one.
Any other, Senator Lewis?
Maybe I'm out of the loop on this, but is the RM shutting down completely? Is that no longer a thing anymore? Or?
Yeah, not necessarily. I mean, that's still a strategic goal for our division to help support student media. Just right now, it's like 1 or 2 students, and so there's just not enough place to please reactivate. So that would be one that I think once we're working with them a little bit more, that we'll see them come. But I also want this to be accurate for you all from a finance perspective too, is if we've not done this step, then they probably shouldn't be asking for funding for the next fiscal year.
Any other comments, questions?
Does it make any sense for the entire student body to be contacted regarding these?
You could, I've left that to Senate historically, to email. I mean,
I'll push it out.
you can, I mean, I can go.
I'll push it out.
Everybody's, to do that.
It's only helped, in the past, it's only helped March. This is, since I've been on Senate, this is probably the 4th student organization deactivation I've seen. It's an annual thing, it happens a lot. So we'll get that pushed out with this next week's transparency. This week I didn't get one out, just because I was waiting on some these reservations to get in. Any other questions or comments? See none? We will see that next week. Reach out to orgs if you know anyone on them. Moving on to resolution 22F014, National Society of Leadership and Success.
Marshall Schleich, Resolution 22F014, originated 2nd November 2022. Originated by Constitution Committee, presented by Senator Kessinger. Whereas adequate interest has been expressed by students wishing to form an organization, the National Society of Leadership and Success, and whereas there are currently no organizations that overlap this interest, and whereas the Constitution has been constructed and reviewed for said club, and therefore be it resolved by a majority vote of the Student Senate and the signature of the Student Association President that the Constitution for the National Society of Leadership and Success be approved, allowing for formal recognition.
Any questions? Seeing none, we will see this next week. Moving on to open discussion.
Yep, so those of you that are on a meal plan, whether it's a commuter plan or all the way to the unlimited, should have gotten an email from me yesterday, I think? Yesterday. So I wanted to, 2 comments. One, just be aware that South Dakota Mines received much more flex dollars added to their accounts than the other 5 Board of Regents institutions because our rollout was more challenging. Okay, so that's kind of a apology to you from Sodexo. And then I wanted to see if you've been getting any feedback about that or any confusion from students. And I apologize to commuters, probably have no idea what I'm talking about.
Senator Ellis?
I don't have a meal plan, but I heard from someone like they got like $25 and then someone else got like $100. Is there any like rhyme or reason to how they?
Yeah, so it was kind of a tier status off of how large your meal plan is. So if you have one that's only 50 meal swipes, it's a commuter plan, those ones only got $25 because it costs like $500 total. If you spent $3,000 for the unlimited, you got $200. So it's trying to make it equitable.
Any other questions?
Everyone I know was super happy about it.
And, Director Henley and I, we can't take any credit for that. That was all the South Dakota Board of Regents, the central staff from Peter. They were the ones who negotiated and advocated for you all.
Any other questions on this issue? Seeing none, anything else for open discussion? Senator Arape?
I finished. I did the FE exam. I talked to the senior, Jarrett Myers, about what his problem was with the FE exam. I'm just gonna read off what I wrote, took notes on. So, when I scheduled a meeting with him last week to talk about the FE exam, he told me a lot of the things what he thought was the problem with the FE exam and like what the information they were given, which he thought could be elaborated on to make it easier for seniors next year and just so they can feel like more secure about the process. They would they have to submit, essentially they have to submit their standing as a senior as well when they're taking the FE exam, but that's not really said on the website either. So there's a lot of space. He told me, he pulled it up and I couldn't see anything either. I wasn't really investigating, but I couldn't see a space where it's hey, you need to show your class standing by going to the registrar's office and getting it and sending it in so that you have the ability to be even looked at for the FE exam. So they figured that out from a senior who had contacted the board of South Dakota Board of Labor, and they sent him a personal link for that information to be sent to the board. So that was one of the biggest problems that they had. Also, they don't know where they stand. So he got a pre-approval letter, but he doesn't know if he's actually getting processed or anything like that because they don't keep it updated. So he doesn't know if he's actually getting processed or when that's going to come out as information. It ended November 1st. They got the email that we pulled up, I think last week. We pulled up the FE exam and we saw that information. They literally just copy and pasted that little box, which wasn't you go through, you fill in the boxes, but there's a lot of details missing in that. They asked a couple teachers and stuff, and teachers at the senior level for help and assistance, and none of them truthfully knew how to help them either. So they were just kind of stuck in not understanding it. Let me see if there's anything else I'm missing. And they also never got the link to register for a time and date when it says that it's supposed to be sent immediately after. I know this is something not in our control, but it's also something that he was concerned about because of the ambiguity on the Minds website. So what he asked me to present to you guys essentially is, can we try to talk to Minds so that we can get a better step-by-step process so seniors next year can have an easier process, saying this is what happens when it happens. Once you hit this step, you need to submit this, even if it doesn't tell you to. Once you submit this, it's going to take some time for this to be processed because the information that he got, he felt didn't help him really at all. That's fine. Corey.
So what I would start with, and she's new, is to go talk to Susan Satter. So she is the new testing coordinator under Student Success. And then she can maybe talk to Lisa. So it could just even be something on the Student Success testing website, could be redesigned in kind of a checklist form or something. Here's the steps you need to do, because there's a lot of information here. And so there may be things that are in their control that they can kind of redesign and make it easier for you. But I would start there and see if they can.
Okay. Any other comments on this? I can send her an email and CC you in it, just to kind of kick off the conversation.
Okay.
If you'll bring that up to her, I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else for open discussion? All All right, seeing none, moving on to CFO report.
All right, hello everyone. I hope you've had a wonderful week so far. So, some news about SOAP, as I've been trying to figure out where all the funding has been coming from and all the specifics about it. Apparently, for the past 4-ish fiscal years, we've been misled about how SOAP is actually generated. It previously did used to be a part of GAF, or the General Activity Fee. However, that account got destroyed and everything that was in that account got transferred over to what we now call the SOAP Reserve, that we have access to. And that initial transaction was about $875,000. And since that happened, SOAP has come directly out of that fee, or out of that fund. So we've been continuously pulling from that account. And at the end of the year, any gap that wasn't spent goes back into that account. But as obviously there's problems with not spending GAP and making it a concern of whether our university should receive more GAP funding or not. So the number that we've been seeing getting put back into that fund has been dropping quite a bit. This last fiscal year it was about $10,000. It was a little under $10,000. So it'll be part of the finance committee's job to kind of come up with potential solutions, as well as if you guys want to propose any solutions to how we can fix this problem. Because obviously this isn't sustainable when we're giving our clubs $300,000 a year, every year, and then that number just keeps increasing as the clubs grow and expand and we get new clubs. So that is kind of all I had to report. It's kind of a lot. I'm sure there's questions, so.
Senator Leonard.
So with what has been taken out this year and what's been promised in previous resolutions that has not been taken out yet, subtracting that out, what's the approximate number that's actually in the account?
600-some thousand.
Okay, so we haven't accidentally brought it down to like 100,000 without
No,
realizing.
so the reason why we didn't really know, like, I've been on the Senate for a while, the reason why I didn't even notice, like, paying attention to the budget is during COVID, so this was brought up right before COVID, kind of end of fiscal year for 2019. And every single year since then has kind of been COVID where it's like been $200-some thousand reverted to the SOAP reserve account, right? Because clubs were doing as much, and during COVID there was a mandatory 50% of your budget was returned. So that's why it wasn't really noticeable until all of a sudden last year so much was spent, only $9,000 was returned to that GAP reserve account. And that's why we see that around the $600,000 mark.
So, just so I'm, the GAF money that returns to the account comes from the rest of the school's GAF budget that was not spent, or only from what clubs were allocated that they did not spend? Both, and that only amounted to.
Plus whatever's still in that account.
And that fund is our only source of money for student budgets?
For student organization budgets, yeah.
Okay.
That was largely my question, but just to clarify, so this last year we got $10,000 from the GAF leftover money, but previous years because of COVID we've gotten more and we haven't noticed. That's what happened.
A lot more was reverted, so it was kind of kept the reserve about the same because it was that initial $875,000 that was put in there. So that's what's been maintained for the past 3 to 4 fiscal years.
The amount in equal to the amount out.
So what you're saying is like in 3 years technically if it continues the way this year we run out.
We're
Yeah.
having money.
Yeah. So So some of the things kind of, one of the keys on to look at with Dr. Spindle was, and I'm sure Dr. Spindle was looking at, is getting SOAP be back part of GAP, which sort of what that is, it was already pretty high up as far as, like, if you look at last year's budget, we were already, you know, having to cut some stuff from there. So it's like, how do we, if it comes down to what do we have to cut to make room there, as well as already kind of aware of having to possibly do a gap increase just based upon, not even before this issue, it was already kind of, okay, we might need to do a fee increase for this to support these auxiliary functions on our campus. So there's gonna be some pretty tough discussions coming up this year, I think. Senator Leonard?
I have 2 questions. One about history. Do we know anything useful about why it was removed from GAF funding? I know it's probably a loaded question, so we don't need to go into it now if you don't want to. And then second question, are we allowed, as long as the state doesn't say we're not allowed to, like doesn't freeze it like they did this year, maybe that doesn't matter, are we allowed to just arbitrarily add $20 or some random number to everyone's tuition?
It has to be approved by, it would have to be through the GAF fee itself being raised, and it would have to be approved by the Board of Regents. But they are allowing us to request fee increases. That's not just for the GAF fee, that's also engineering fees across campus. So it's trying to balance being able to support what we currently have under GAF, as well as be able to support our student organizations on campus without raising rates ridiculously. So yes, we can, and that's gonna be, I think, a big discussion for finance committee this year, is if we are gonna raise GAF, what to. And where we really play to this process is gonna be who we get allocated to the GAF Act committee. We have 5 people that we can allocate, so a lot, mostly finance for there. So it's gonna be some pretty in-depth conversations this year.
And we can do that locally for just our school, like
Yes.
not for some of the rest of the Board of Regents? Okay.
Any other questions? I guess any clarifications, anything you guys are confused about on this? I know it's kind of getting in the weeds with finances, especially for new senators that haven't really dealt with the GAF process or TIL process. Yeah. So, you want to do that?
Sure. So essentially, how GAF works now is we have different, I don't want to call them committees because they're not committees, but different areas of the school that are, paid through student dollars. Departments, that's what's called. Thank you. So different departments through the school that are paid through your student dollars based on how many credits you take, you get charged a general activity fee, and that is almost always guaranteed to go toward something that will benefit all students, such as counseling, the wellness center, like those kinds of things. So in the spring semester every year, those different departments come in and they give a presentation to the GAF allocations committee, which consists of 5 senators, myself, and then 3 staff or faculty voting members. And then they'll give presentations saying what they did in the previous years, as well as what they would like to receive for this upcoming year. And then based off of those and how the GAP allocation committee weighs those, we can approve how much funding goes toward whichever department. Some of the big departments that usually get lots of funding, or at least what they request, are things like counseling, because almost all students are asking for not only just for counseling, but for additional counseling, and sometimes that fee isn't able to go up. And then at the end of the year, the whole Senate, or the GAP allocations committee, will bring forward a resolution with the budget of what is allocated toward each of those departments, and the Senate will take a vote, I believe it's a 2/3 majority vote, on whether to approve that budget or not, and then that will get sent to the president, and based off of how much GAP actually ends up being in the next school year will determine how those funds are allocated.
If I could just add on to that as well, so kind of how it breaks down is a $50 fee per credit hour for all students at Mines. About half of that goes to what's called bonded buildings, right? It's basically a mortgage for campus. So Wellness Center is bonded by student fee dollars, by gap fee. Civic Center renovation and Howard Peterson renovation, and there's also an earlier Civic Center renovation that was bonded. So the other half of that gap fee goes to basically the gap operations budget, which a certain area of that goes for Wellness Center operations. It's like $200,000, if I'm not mistaken. That's kind of hard coded into that $1.4 million gap operations budget. So every other area of GAF is basically competing for that pool of operations budget, which actually Vice President Schleich's pulled up last year's GAF budget, just kind of show the breakdown. This is what was approved.
No, this is still proposed.
This is still
But
proposed.
it
Yeah.
roughly fell this mainly, it's mainly all in the blues. Mainly people got might have been a little bit off, but
Yeah, so if you're looking in there right now, I wrote a list down there, so if I missed anyone, let me know. Oh, it's up there, correct.
why did that do that?
You need to run your column, so you need to do this in that. About $1.3 million last year. That includes the Wellness Center that was earmarked. So as you can see, athletics, intramurals, student engagement, Rocker Days, drama, Survey Center, scheduling, counseling, health services, student senate, cultural expo, wellness center. So important thing to note is some of these are auxiliary. Auxiliary means that the campus cannot support it using state funds. So things that are auxiliary is Survey Center, student engagement.
We're not auxiliary.
Not auxiliary? Or, okay.
They're funded by you.
Okay, so, yeah, or no, I'm saying like auxiliary fully funded by us.
Yeah,
Or,
Right, but Survey.
Oh, it's not considered.
We're not, we're a department.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha, so, sorry, student engagement, student health, and what else was here? Student engagement, student health is the big ones.
Okay. Yeah, so just real quick on clarification, so auxiliaries, they cannot be funded by state debt to make money. So Residence Life, which we don't, is an auxiliary. Survey Center is an auxiliary. The Rocker Shop is an auxiliary. A portion of scheduling is an auxiliary, but then the rest are campus departments, so that can be funded and may be funded in other ways. So athletics, for example, gets some university funding. Counseling used to have some funding from the university, where that's tuition fees or those kind of things. So those departments can be funded out, but those other ones that are specific auxiliaries do not receive any, what we consider state funding, whether that's other tuition fees, those kind of things, cannot fund those programs.
Yeah, so Culture Expo, Student Senate, Health Services, student engagement, Rocker Days. Yeah, those are all, and is intramurals or putting intramurals in paper?
That's, that wellness center intramural kind of thing is, yeah, that's to support that, yep.
Yeah. So that's kind of what makes it, it's gonna make some of these conversations really, really difficult. We'll try to keep you guys updated as much as possible. If you all have any questions, please make sure you bring them forward. If you all have any ideas, please make sure you bring them forward. Yeah. Any other questions on this issue?
So basically, to have more excess gap, we would have to cut down on some of those.
Or we
Which
raise
would
the
not
cap.
have to fund, so.
Or a combination. Yeah.
I will note that like fiscal year 23 is using roughly the same budget as fiscal year 22, so there were cuts already made this past year, just because we didn't have a gap increase, so this past year.
And there was a wage increase.
So there's wage increase, but not a GAF increase. So there was cuts, and those cuts were difficult to get approved even then.
I think if we're gonna be, this is kind of spitballing. If we're looking at solutions, I think solutions that we can implement over a 2-3 year period, so we're not having to just slash budgets. So we're slowly shifting over to this. So I will note for some of the ad hocs, kind of dealing with larger projects through student senate, that just kind of be kind of conservative moving into this next year with what we're trying to do out of that until we have SOAP sustainable again.
Another thing is, ideally this shouldn't have to happen, but in the future, if things don't go well or as planned, student orgs could look into getting endowed or getting alumni donors as well. Hopefully we don't have to resort to that, but that's also another option if you want to start looking into that immediately. Just to have excess money anyway, but it's always good to have a little bit of extra money, but in case SOAP doesn't go well, that may be something we need to pursue in the future to maintain our level of student org activity here on campus.
And I will also say, like, this isn't necessarily our problem to solve entirely, but Dr. Spindle is very concerned about this as well, and he's trying to find solutions as well. We're just trying to provide student-based solutions or student-recommended solutions.
Any other questions? Seeing none, moving on to VP report.
So hopefully I don't have as much of a boner of a I suppose. Not much has happened aside from student that is meeting this Sunday. We'll be going over our mental health initiative stuff some more. We plan to probably have a second meeting in November. The plan is at the moment, which it could change very well once again, to take the survey that Senator Paul and I worked with to kind of make and send out to campus for mental health, and actually send that out to all 6 regional universities, collect the data for all 6 regional universities, and have actual data to work with the Senate Board of Regents. Aside from that, I'll have more updates for that next week, but it's been kind of slow moving for that. So, any questions?
Seeing none, moving on to my report. So as part of the, Vice President Schleich and I were part of the University Strategic Plan review session. So the current strategic plan was written through 2019 through 2023. Just kind of making adjustments to it based on the Board of Regents strategic plan, as well as other areas that members of the steering committee identified. I'm going to be talking to Jade Herman up in the President's office to see if we can get 2 more students on that committee. As of right now, there's 4 subcommittees within that steering committee. So I sat on kind of campus culture. What was the actual name of that? I forget.
Campus culture.
Campus culture. Okay. I sat on campus culture, and Vice President Schleich sat on academics. We'll call it that.
Yeah.
So there's another one for research, kind of goes to the campus, as well as for kind of outreach. So if I get that approved, I'll be reaching out to a few people I think would serve very well on this committee. Some of the major talking points that kind of stuck close to the previous strategic plan. Mostly the same points, but it's just kind of the more specifics of what we've actually accomplished over the last 5 years using the previous strategic plan and other areas that we want to add. Which I'll be trying to get those. I have those minutes out after they get them out.
I just triple check with
Yeah.
Dr. J.
I'm gonna try to get all those talking points and kind of discussion points out to everyone here after they're all compiled to get feedback on those. Outside of that, President Schleich covered Student Federation. So I need to get. I'll be sending out a SHED survey after this meeting. Looking at having SHED, is it the last week of January?
Mm-hmm.
Last week in January. So those that don't know, new centers, the SHED, Students for Higher Education Days, basically We leave on Sunday morning from here. We're rolling in Suburbans. It's gonna be awesome. Over to Pier. We get to Pier, we hop into a Student Federation meeting in person. For a lot of senators, that's the first and only Student Federation meeting they see in a year in person. And then we take stances, right? We vote and take stances on bills going through South Dakota State Legislature that affect board regions as a whole or individual board region schools. So we'll be voting prior to going, something the two middle weeks in January, taking stances for our institutions. We can go there and vote accordingly. And then we have the social dinner that evening. Then we get to wake up in the morning bright and early, go to the Capitol, be in the rotunda, and basically lobby for legislation. I'll be trying to get some people on the GR committee, I guess, and other anyone really interested in it, lobbying passes, so you can actually go on to the various chamber floors and go talk to legislators about these issues. Yeah. So yeah, any questions on SHED? Please fill out that survey. I'm gonna send it out tonight. Let's say have it filled out by Saturday, or we're gonna start sending more emails. It's basically if you're gonna be able to go or not, and some kind of information on that. So
Go to Shed.
go to SHED.
Go to Shed.
It's fun. And report. Any questions?
Is there any personal cost to attend this, or is it?
You get reimbursed for cruises. So you don't have to like pay
Yeah.
food up front, but aside from that, no.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot about that. I was gonna say the announcements.
Sorry.
Congratulations to Senator Kessinger for defending his thesis yesterday.
It was unremarkable, which is good. Yeah, it was good.
Who tore you the worst?
Actually, nobody. No, last week they did though. Like Lisa did it before I did the presentation. My computer did crash on the way to give the presentation though, so that was stressful. It turned out fine though. Yeah.
Good to hear, good to hear. Any other questions? All right, moving on to international report.
So I was talking to Bat from the Admiral International Center, and she was discussing with Katie from ResLife about housing on campus. So the thing is, a lot of international students come here, and like for the spring semester, there's not a lot of housing. The senator on the housing committee will probably know about it. So Katie kind of suggested about having shuttle services. So there's Rapid City transit system and the public works department. So they kind of have buses going through here and a lot of places around Rapid City. And so we have about 1,300 students staying off campus. So I think this could kind of help those students. So what are your views on it? And also, I think they have something like free rides for youth below 18. So maybe we could talk with them about the Hard Rocker discount program and maybe try to get it from my students. And also there are some other universities here like Black Hills State Rapid City Campus and Western Dakota Tech. So maybe we could talk to them and maybe try to figure it out. So what are your views on it? I'll be talking to the housing department, like students of senators on the housing committees.
Senator Ellis, if you could try to add that to our Rocker discount program. And then obviously, Senator Archer, Senator Twing, you want to get with Senator Fernandez and kind of get any more info on that. Take it to committee. And report?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions for Senator Fernandez on that? All right, seeing none. Wesley's not here. I can kind of give what you can give. Vets Club Chili Cook-Off, 9th Annual Vets Club Chili Cook-Off is going to be next Tuesday. Don't remember the times off the top of my head. Basically, it's a really good time. It's $50 to enter a chili if you want to enter a chili. I'm entering too, so come try my chilies. You get and then want to try chili or you want to, you know, go taste, it's I think $5 for the trial of chilies, as well as you get a huge bowl of the house chili that the American Legion's making, so you get a full meal out of it. Additionally, we have raffle prizes with it, so we'll be going around giving gift certificates from various organizations, as well as we have a PS5 as part of the raffle. I don't remember those ticket prices off the top of my head. They got sent out on the weekly WhatsApp. So yeah, it'd be great. It's for the proceeds from the raffle, 50% of the profits go to Cornerstone Rescue Mission, and then 50% go to the Veterans Club for their veteran scholarship. So it's all good things. And a report. Any questions? How was my chili last year, Dr. Joe?
It was spicy. It was very spicy. I think yours was the most spicy.
It's gonna be, so I'm entering 2 this year because I got 6 last year, despite it having Carolina Reapers in it. I'm making one hotter this year, and I'm also making one milder. So please try them both. Sarah else.
I just want to say I will also be making a chili, and I think I'm a pretty good cook, so you should come try mine.
Are you gonna win?
I'm gonna try. That's why I'm entering the mild one, because people don't like spice. Does anyone want to enter? Does anyone want to represent Senate and enter a Senate chili? I will personally pay the $50 entry fee.
I could get my brother who's a chef to do it.
Oh.
That's a dub.
I will pay.
I'll talk to my brother.
That's perfect. We all have full bottle.
We should have a signature.
All right, any other questions? All right, see none, moving on to graduate report.
Nothing to report.
Questions for Senator Kissinger? See none, moving on to non-traditional senator.
No reports.
Okay, any questions for Senator Cantz? See none, moving on to committee reports, starting Constitution.
In theory, there's a fencing club that exists, or is hoping to exist. That's the only new thing you guys haven't seen yet.
Senator you?
I guess you could say it's on the fence.
Yeah, you could. You've been there.
All right, any other comments? Senator Kissinger. Moving on, public relations.
We had the Thanksgiving problem this weekend, so we have a good turnout there. And then I'll be sending out a form about polos, like Senate polos. Only fill it out if you still need a polo. We're doing the same ones as last year, so if you're on Senate last year, hopefully you still have your polo. If you don't like a different size, fill it out. But yeah. And then we made a TikTok for Senate, and we're gonna start posting fun videos on there.
Okay. Any questions for Senator Ellis?
Thanks for taking over the photos, I appreciate it.
Any other questions for Senator Ellis? See none, moving on to governmental relations.
We're doing a raffle at the BH basketball game on November 28th. So we're getting everything ready for that.
What's being raffled?
We're getting everything ready.
Oh, yes. Any questions for Senators? All right, see none, moving on to student affairs.
Okay, so the stickers unfortunately did not come in time for our Spirit Friday, so we're pushing it back. We would push it back 1 week, but of course we don't have school next week. So it's going to be on the 18th now. And then we also are going to try and have an open forum before Christmas break. So we're still going to discuss that in our committee.
We have more T-shirts, by the way. There are more T-shirts under there. Okay. Oh, they are extra jerseys. Any questions for Senator Paul? See none. Moving on to campus and ad hoc committees. Senator Twing?
For the housing committee, I talked to Katie Walsh earlier this week, and the trailer park-esque thing that was brought up last meeting is something they are not pursuing currently.
Okay. Any questions for Senator Twing? See none. Senator Else?
Parking Appeals Committee met, and Kathy Helgeson clarified on the overnight parking thing, Doug changed it, so like the first night shift officer from 4 p.m. to midnight is going around like the overnight lots at 10 p.m. and then taking like a video of like all the cars in the overnight lots. And then the second shift person, who's from midnight to 8 a.m., is also going around like the last couple of hours of their shifts. And if the same cars have been there since the previous officer's shift, then they're giving overnight parking instead of just like, you're in Survey at midnight, here's an overnight ticket.
So we just have to move our car.
Yes, if I can go back to the housing one, just for the minutes, I don't know, Secretary is here. So, nothing against trailer parks, but I want to be sure in the minutes, can we call, because they were temporary modular housing. Not Thank you. I just don't want that to go out to all staff. We're going to put us in trailer parks? We're temporary modular.
Any questions for Senator Ellis? Parking tables. All right, seeing none. Senator Cantz?
Yeah, so I met with the K-Tech people yesterday, the TURC meeting, and I'm going to give you some updates of the things they were working on, and then I'm probably going to give you guys my hot take on So what they're doing right now, they're trying to build like a podcast network, and they want people to do monthly podcasts, like different student orgs to come in, people from different departments. You can come in and do a podcast about like your research. So they're working on that. I know they're looking to possibly get someone for a part-time position because they need a lot of help. They also are maybe looking at to bring some high school DJs. Yeah, I think that's a bad idea. I get it, but like, I wouldn't want to like listen to a high school DJ. One cool thing they are looking to do is to broadcast like actual live shows, like have actual local bands and even student artists to come in and play live. And I'm a musician, so I told them I would definitely play. And yeah, some other than that, but so for my take, and like just from the meeting, well, first we live in the age of streaming, and I don't even, most students seem to me they don't even know we have like a college radio station. And it's a lot of the problems they were talking about that they have all come from broadcasting. Like their licensing, just like maintenance and all that. And it's just like, my question was always like, do all these problems outweigh like the reach they're getting? And I'm not from K-Tech, I don't know their numbers or what they're getting. I know you guys probably know a little more with like student media because I know you guys were there. But like I come from the music industry. Like I've been in the music industry like for about like 17 years now. So like this is the only reason why I feel comfortable talking about this is because I come from that and like I could kind of see where like music is going. But like it just seems to me to be putting all this money and time and resources into radio, which is going to be a dead medium. You know, I think they should really switch all their stuff, like keep the broadcasting, but start to dissolve it and put all their effort, time, and maintenance into starting that podcast network and eventually turn it into like a multimedia network, because that'll get rid of all your licensing agreements, that'll get rid of like all the FCC regulations, and like students and people today, like we all have smartphones and like streaming services, and like we all can listen to any music band, whatever we want at any time, to sit there and be like, I'm gonna tune in and maybe the college radio station will play my favorite song. Is just like such a reach. And even like with podcasting, the greatest thing about podcasts is that like even when it goes live, you don't have to listen to it or watch it then, you can do it whenever you want. So like the one girl actually has a show, who was there, Cecilia, she has a show with her dad. And I don't know what the show is, and maybe her dad has a cool life or whatever, but I would like to check it out. But if they don't put it on a podcast or like stream it anywhere, so like you miss the broadcast, that's it. So I mean, for me, just thinking like long term, I would go full blown into turning it into like it could still be K-Tech, but like those guys are definitely not going to go for that. If I brought that, they have such a nostalgia hold on K-Tech. Half of the meeting is them just going, K-Tech in the 80s, like we used to do this, and like it's not the 80s are 40 years ago, stop. Even when I was there, they're like, yeah, come in and play some Motley Crue. No! No, like why? Like no one's gonna do that. And so I don't really know, like I said, I'm not speaking on K-Tech, I don't know their numbers, but I would say, like, the school would be so beneficial and I know you guys had some licensing issues, and like, I could, like, help you guys with that, but like, if you switch more towards, get rid of the, like, the broadcast and just switch more to full-blown streaming, all that goes away. And like, I think so much more people and students in like a younger audience would tune into that, and just with like podcasting, you could, like, with all that more money, you can make a whole studio, you can have video and have student works come there anytime, anyone doing research can do it, like, the student senate could have a podcast, so I would go more towards that and start dissolving the broadcasting aspect, but those guys would not go for that. But that's my like to
I don't know if this is something you can propose, but like, I don't know if K-Tech has a YouTube channel.
They don't.
And then just while you're broadcasting, record your podcast. And at the end of your podcast, just upload what you recorded.
Yeah, that would be a good start.
So
but
you're still broadcasting.
They're really just married to that broadcast, like, radio station DJ vibe. But like I said, is anyone here would invest money into a radio station? No. You've invested in a streaming service, though, any type of that, like, that would be a lot better. Like,
if I could also give some clarification for some of the newer senators, so they came in the spring asking for $10,000.
oh, yeah, they're transitioning more into a student org. That's also what they want to do.
Yeah, so they've been K-Tech for a while, and there's the TURC, which is kind of advisory council that kind of governs the radio station. K-Tech came, they had to ask for $10,000 because they had some basically lawyer fees with getting their SEC.
Again, that goes away.
And this isn't the first time that they've done it. So they did it, I think, 4 years ago. Yeah, as well as licensing for music has increased, and now they have to go through 3 providers. Or is it 4? 4 providers now. Yeah.
If you stream, all that's gone. Sorry.
So I guess what would you before I follow, any other comments on this?
K-Tech, I'm really happy that somebody other than me went to the church.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that you went to that. There was a huge push in K-Tech to get all of that on a streaming service.
Yeah,
I know they aren't discussing it, and they might not have been very clear. The goal is to have podcasts or content from the university that shows the only thing that we can add value in, which isn't music.
No, they got that. But I feel like they're leaning towards, like, they want to be a broadcast network with, like, podcasting. But I say, be a huge, like, don't just do podcasting, do all your shows and do everything just in that network you're creating, and start dissolving the broadcasting.
Yes.
That's what I would say to do, but they just kind of want to, like...
So I do want to defend them a little bit, though. The goal is to have things set up like, Apple Podcast or Podcasting, Spotify. So the plan is not just to have stuff be on a 30-minute time slot on Sunday in local radio. The goal is to get there. I don't think that they have plans on how to do it yet. So
no, they didn't. No.
If I actually agree with some other opinions. Center out it.
I think the podcasting would be really cool. I think it would be if, like, I don't really listen to the radio in general, but if I'm gonna listen, to a podcast, and if it's gonna be like useful information for myself as a student, like, out of my own convenience, as he said, that's how I see it, and I think it would be cool if you could incorporate orgs as well, so that you can see what orgs are up to without having to, like, say, go to a meeting or talk to someone about it. You can literally just listen about it, and then if you have questions, you can always go ask those orgs and things like that. I think that's a pretty good strategy.
Has anyone here actually tried to listen to it at all?
No.
I tried once freshman year. It wasn't on air, and I have not tried since. So I was just curious if anybody else here has actually tried to listen to it.
I was.
Sorry. Are you coming down to his comment?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Go for it.
I listened to it last night just because I'm friends with the girl, so. Yeah.
Yeah. What is her show with that?
I was gonna put a motion.
Don't do that.
Motion to go to discussion.
Is there a second? Senator Siegman, all those in favor of limiting discussion, what was the time you want to limit to?
2 minutes.
Okay. All those in favor of limiting discussion to 2 minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, discussion is now limited to 2 minutes. Start timer. Who else do you have here? Who else do you start? Okay, that kind of killed it. Okay. I guess my question would be, how would you like to bring this forward to them?
I don't mind just being straightforward about it.
Okay, would you like to set up a meeting or?
Yeah, I could, they gave me their, I got their email.
Okay, would you like to be in that meeting?
What's that?
Would you like to be in that meeting?
Do you wanna come in? Yeah.
I should.
Yeah.
Okay. If we get, how do you have at least someone from finance, just to kind of have the records of how it's been there and what it's looking like for the future.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think having, Corey in the room would be good, especially with initiatives to promote student media,
Mhm.
so.
And I would just quickly add, it's one of our initiatives to support student media in some form, whatever that looks like. And I agree with some of the comments, and it probably more from staff of holding on to that. They're only going to be successful by student involvement, right? And so I appreciate the discussion in the room, right? And so I'm glad that you're going to look at, but if we're wanting their shape, they need student input there, right? Because it's a big beast, for lack of a better word, to operate the radio station.
Absolutely.
And I would commend the student leaders that have been struggling over the last few years to keep it going, right? Because from an alumni perspective, there's probably a lot there from that involvement in the history of wanting to support that. And so I think as a committee getting in there and sharing ideas, what does it look like? How would students get more engaged? Sharing some of that, I think could be very beneficial to them.
Let's, if you could bring something kind of forward, kind of how you want to structure a meeting to next week's meeting.
Okay.
We'll get something going. Any other campus rep activities? Any upcoming set business? Any announcements? Ready to go?
Yes, I've got two. So we'll be bringing two finalist candidates for our open director of inclusion position. One will be here on November 9th, and the second will be here on November 14th. And we do have 45 minutes set for them to meet with any senators who are available. I'll send that out via email tomorrow to all of you. If any of you aren't available during that time, we'll also have an open time, open 45 minutes. So you kind of have two opportunities to meet with these two candidates. Really important position, helps set the tone for how welcoming our campus can be, do trainings with your groups, all that sort of thing. And then my second one, in our meeting here on November 16th, our partners that do our health services with Monument Health, that contract expires in May. So they're coming to present a 3-year extension to that, which you probably saw was on the GAF allocation piece. So they'll present their proposal for the next 3 years on November 16th. So come with your questions. They're proposing a small increase. So it was $137,000 on the sheet we saw. They're proposing $150,000 per year, but that will lock in for the next 3 years. So pretty modest. They also have agreed to give us a gift of $2,500 each year for wellness initiatives. So that offsets that increase of $13,000 a little bit. So that'll be November 16th as an open floor guest.
Any other announcements? Senator Stephen?
Come see the Heathers this weekend.
All right. Senator?
There's 53 days left till Christmas. I'm gonna get something going on that.
Okay. Entertaining any motions? Fair call.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Senator? All right, all those in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All the same side, nay.